With Donald Trump launching a global trade war, there are many questions on how this will affect the global economy. And really, how hard will it hit our wallets? Now, joining me to discuss today's development is Polish Deputy Minister of Development and Technology, Michał Baranowski. Mr. Minister, thank you for joining us today in the studio.
Great to be with you.
Now, what are your expectations for how this will affect the Polish and regional economies?
Well, it's not good. It's not going to be a boost to our economic growth. We have done now a number of analyses, and depending on the assumptions, the hit to Polish economy is between 0.1 to 0.4 percentages of GDP. Poland is not affected directly, but we trade a lot with the rest of the EU that will be affected by this highest tariffs that we have ever had with the United States, really in a very, very, very long time.
Certainly. So, Poland's trade with the United States is not very significant, but the knock-on effect is what is going to get us here in Poland. What sectors do you think are going to be hit the hardest here in Poland?
Well, there is as probably a lot of the listeners and viewers know, now it's a general tariff, but then there is additional earlier tariffs on car manufacturers. Poland supplies a lot of parts to German, French, Italian car industry, so that's one area. Again, the entire effects depend on not only the tariffs that U.S. poses, because U.S. started a trade war really across the globe. It also will see how, for example, imports from China or from other countries impact European Union. What I would just add is the consumers that will be most affected sit in the United States. Mm-hmm. So, and that's actually we can see already in the stock market in the U.S. So it's first of all bad for Americans, unfortunately, too.
Yeah, now in terms of retaliatory tariffs, what do you think the EU will do? What do you think the EU should do in this case?
Sure. So we are holding now the EU presidency, which means that we are responsible for bringing EU countries together. So on Monday, I'm going to be chairing a ministerial meeting of trade ministers across the EU, working very closely with the Commission on what our response should be. It is pretty clear that we cannot just sit on our hands and do nothing about this. The response will be proportional. We also very much hope and aim that the response European response leads to a real negotiation with the American side. So the aim is not to be escalatory, but frankly, we need to have a much more real conversation with the American side about the future of our trade relations. And that's a conversation that will be led by European Commission as EU is a bloc in this field.
Certainly. Now, Donald Trump, by instituting these tariffs, do you believe that this is an attempt for him from one side to just go ahead and renegotiate the trade relationships of the entire world with the United States on an individual basis?
Well, that's what President Trump is saying, right? His hypothesis, I guess, is that by putting such high wall of tariffs around the United States, that companies will decide to produce inside the United States. Now, it's certainly hugely disruptive to the American economy and the global economy. Right now, we are seeing the pain that U.S. economy is going through and the pain it will inflict on other economies. Whether this works for America, we'll know in many, many quarters. It's disrupting supply chains. It is not, well, all economists really have been saying that that's not the way to go about it. U.S. is a sovereign country, but then, of course, will be met with retaliatory measures from countries around the world, and China, for example, has already responded. So is Canada, and EU will be preparing again on Monday for specific measures that will be taken vis-à-vis the United States.
Right. So it still remains to be seen whether this will impact the onshoring for the domestic economy of the United States and domestic manufacturing. But from the sense of trying to basically redo the system that Trump inherited, I'm asking specifically about that. Do you think that Donald Trump did this in also effect by trying to renegotiate the trade relationship with each individual nation in the world that the United States has?
Well, so the American administration has not reached out with a very clear negotiating mandate. It is more of a approach, let's put tariff first and talk only second. Even perhaps the most advanced negotiations with a really small economy by comparison with the UK, these negotiations have gone further. And at the same time, US still has put tariffs just at the lower level, at the level of 10% against the UK. So it is not, we are not in a clear negotiating momentum. We are in a
But the expectations are that negotiations are just around the corner.
We very much hope so. We very much hope so. So do other partners. But I think the assumption on the European side is that we'll have to retaliate first. Europe will have to retaliate first for the negotiations to really start in earnest with our American partners.
And if retaliation results in the snowball effect, if we have kind of a back and forth?
That's the problem with trade wars, and that's the problem with starting ones. It's not going to be good for anyone. Again, it's not going to be great for Europeans. It's going to be even worse for Americans because they are facing these tariffs on imports from across the globe. So the prices, the inflation, the potential recession, that's all very much facing right now American economy.
Any diplomatic fallout?
Well, it's not, let's put it very diplomatically, it certainly not increases the transatlantic trust. This is still very much in early stage of the new administration, and I've been dealing with transatlantic relations really for the last 20 years. And I have not seen such a moment in transatlantic relations in my whole career. And some people really question whether this is not a new moment when you look at both economics and security, sort of a first moment since the end of World War II.
All right, well, Minister Baranowski, thank you very much for coming in tonight and clarifying some of these issues for us. Thank you, sir.
It was a pleasure to join you.
And now stay tuned for On the Record with Adam Yasser. Tonight's guest is Kira Rudik, a Ukrainian MP from the Holos Party. She will examine the question, is Donald Trump failing or losing interest in fulfilling his promise to end the war in Ukraine? Well, that's all the time we have here on World News Tonight. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Good night.